I want to talk today about getting your needs met, or at least the first step in getting your needs met. Because one of the patterns that I see in myself and in a lot of my clients is an inability to vocalize our needs. And I might even say there's a step before that. It's an inability to even recognize that we have needs, like to feel the need in action. So I was chatting to a client about this recently who noticed this pattern of either kind of like overgiving and needing to accommodate everybody else's needs. So in friendships, in romantic relationships, this person was yeah, like accepting somebody else's statement of the need is like, oh, this is what it has to be. Okay, so there's no negotiations. Like, okay, yes, we'll do whatever it is that you want. And then because their needs weren't being considered, we're kind of this person was having this like opposite, this like an equal and opposite reaction, Newtonian physics, and then was then kind of like pushing people away, needing like a lot of time on their own, and so like stuck in this kind of binary between either meeting other people's needs, and then kind of being burnt out and having to push everybody away so they could be with theirs. And I want to offer that it doesn't have to be like that. So one of the things I love about authentic relating, for example, the fifth practice of authentic relating is to honor self and honor other. Yeah. And that and is like a simultaneous. It's not a, oh, I can meet your needs and then I meet mine, or vice versa. It really invites us into the possibility that I might be able to be with my needs, wants, and desires and with somebody else's at the same time. It doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. We don't have to kind of play this game where one of us is sacrificing and compromising. We can find a solution that works. And if we can't, then there's a question then about is this a connection that is sustainable? Okay. I'm not saying that you like it has to be zero sum in every single moment, but overall in the connection, yeah, there has to be enough overlap around your needs for that connection to be sustainable. Yeah. It's never going to be 100%. There's always going to be things that you want that are different. But is there enough overlap in that Venn diagram that feels that it's sustainable and worthwhile for you both? But the first stage of that is to be able to know your needs, wants, and desires, and then to be able to express them. Okay. And I think it's that very first step that can be really hard for people of like, especially those of us that have developed the coping strategy of just not feeling. Yeah, it's kind of like numbness when it comes to our needs. Like sometimes somebody asks me what I need. I'm like, I genuinely don't know. And that's because I haven't had as much practice in understanding my needs, feeling them, as I have in numbing out and pretending they don't exist. Because at some point in my life, I worked out that was a more effective strategy than feeling my needs and then going with the disappointment of them not being met. Okay. And I really want to celebrate that strategy. Like, yay. Thank you, me, for doing my best to keep myself safe at times in my life where the pain of not getting my needs met was too much for me to cope with. So great. I really want to trust the wisdom of that strategy. And what I notice now as a 40-year-old woman is that that's not a particularly effective strategy for being in a relationship and getting my needs met. Okay. Um, so, so if this is resonating with you, the first thing to do is to notice that this is a pattern of yours. The second thing to do is not to beat yourself up for it. And like I said, this has been a really helpful strategy. It's kept you safe for a reason. I've done a really good job of it. And maybe you're coming to the place now, you're like, I would like to be able to do something else. Okay, so let's really encourage you not to make yourself wrong. Don't beat yourself up for being human and doing the best that you could with the skills and tools that you had available. Okay. So how might you start being able to notice your needs? I've got a little exercise for you. This is taken from an inner needs compass. It's based on nonviolent communication. I learned this from Carlos Saba, one of the founders of the Happy Startup School. And a really simple place to start is grab a piece of paper and divide it into two. Okay, I suggest doing this with paper and pen. It's a little easier than doing it on a screen. And on one side of the paper, you're going to make a list of all of the things that you've done in the last week or the last month. Pick a time frame that feels right for you. So all of the activities that you've done that have energized you, that have given you a sense of aliveness, that you've come away feeling kind of buoyed up by in some ways. And on the other half of the piece of paper, you're going to write down all of the activities that you've done that have left you feeling drained in some way, that have taken more life force than they've given you. And really encourage you to include the mundane, like the data, the washing up, the tax return, anything that you've been doing, as well as kind of like the highlight things, like the big activities that maybe are like a one-off or less regular. Okay, so two lists, all the things that have drained you and all the things that have energized you. Okay. Then when you've got your list, I'd suggest give yourself about 5 minutes for this. Okay, doesn't have to map out everything, so you start to get a sense. You want at least like 5 things in each column. Once you've got your list, go back to those activities and put yourself back in the moment of doing that activity, and see if you can notice and name the emotion that you were feeling. Okay, so we're moving away from the kind of like the generic energizing, draining, and now starting to get a little more nuanced. Okay, so was it happy? Was it joyful? Was it nourished? Was it calm? Was it overwhelmed, irritated, frustrated, stressed? Yeah. So again, take about 5 minutes or so. You can pause this video if you like, and note down like what were the feelings that you were experiencing at those times. And that in itself can be really helpful, okay, to bring more awareness to what is the emotional pattern that you're experiencing in different activities. Because the NVC model essentially says that our actions are driven by our feelings, and our feelings are driven by whether our needs are being met or not. So the next stage of this exercise is to see if you can identify from the feeling, can you identify what was the underlying need? And what you'll find is your lists start to point at one list, right? Because your energizing activities and emotions are going to point to times when your needs were being met. And the draining activities, those emotions are going to point to the times where your needs maybe weren't being met. Okay. And what this exercise can help you do is to start to recognize the emotional patterns of what happens when your needs are being met or not. And it also starts to articulate like, what are some of your needs? There's a need for connection, for validation, impact, fun, play, learning, stability. So I'm going to pause you there. There's more steps to this exercise when I do this with clients, but for this purpose, we have to like start to articulate your needs. This is a really great one to be able to identify the emotional patterns and to start to name your needs to yourself. And I think I'm going to stop there today. I'll talk another time about then how to bring your needs into connection. But for me, the first step is, particularly for those of us that have had a pattern of not feeling our needs, is to do this work for yourself, to start to become more attuned to what does it feel like when I have a need? What does it feel like when I have a need and I'm ignoring it? So to kind of do some of this work, tending to yourself first, before you start to bring your needs into relationship with other people. So I'd love to hear how this goes. Please share any reflections from the exercise, anything you notice about this pattern of binary, like I'm either overgiving and I have no needs, or suddenly I have to be not around people at all so that I can tend to my needs. Yeah, maybe this shows up in a different way for you. I'd be really curious to hear. Or yeah, any questions? Love to hear from you.